George of the jungle, strong as he can be.
Anyone who has owned a home in the state of Utah for the last year or longer has accumulated a ton of equity in the home. What's the best way to cash in on that equity if you need some extra money? Well, that's what we're going to be discussing in thecreditjungle.com today. This is George Anderson. Thanks for joining. And, there's basically, three ways of tapping your equity, and the first one's not what normally most people think about, and that's just to sell the house. A lot of people would love to do that if they just didn't need to go and live in a place after they sold the home. So unless you're planning on buying a motorhome and touring the US, you've got to look at the other two options, and those would be a cash out refinance or a home equity line of credit, which is commonly referred to as a HELOC, home equity line of credit. So anyway, a lot of people, from last year especially, a lot of people refinanced and they already have a good interest rate on their loan. And the rate that they're going to get on a cash out refinance is going to have a pricing level adjustment based on what that loan to value is and for some cash out. Now, what that means is that the rate on a refinance, and especially a cash out refinance, is not going to be as good as the interest rate on as if they were purchasing a home. So the way to be able to determine that is, first of all, ask, well, what's the amount of money that you're going to get and what are you using it for? If it's a short-term investment, in other words, it's money that you might need for, investing, like maybe buying a vehicle or buying something that you're going to have to replace sometime soon, with like in the next 5 to 10 years, normally a cash out refinance is not a good deal, and especially not if the interest rate, if you're at, let's just say you're at 3% now and you'd be doing a cash out refinance and your rate would be 3.25%. Well, if you have a $300,000 loan and the new loan's going to be $350,000, you've effectively raised your interest rate much more than 0.25% on $50,000, because you've also raised it on the entire $300,000 that you've gotten rid of. So there's no need to, what I call, throw the baby out with the bathwater if you've got a good interest rate on your loan already. Now, there are some people that, they just need to consolidate their debt. They've got a lot of other personal debt and some stuff that they've done, and if you have no other affordable way to be able to do that, I don't recommend cashing in a retirement account. The tax penalties, the savings, you're losing your opportunity to have that money working in the market, then sure, a cash out refinance is a great thing. And then you just have to be careful that whatever you were doing on your spending and your budgeting that got you all this other debt, that you just don't jump back on the debt carousel and start repeating that process again. So that's just words of caution and just something that everybody has to make their own personal decision on. But a home equity line of credit, if somebody already has a good interest rate, can be a good thing if they're thinking about using it to actually invest in another property. And that's normally where I recommend that somebody gets a home equity line of credit. Because if that other property that they're buying, even if it's just a flip, if they want to buy a house and experiment with fixing up a house and selling it and making some money on it, well, that money, you're going to draw that interest and you're going to use it while you own the house. But after the home is sold, you're going to take your profit plus your principal back, and then you're going to pay that line of credit off. So it's almost like a revolving account that you would use, like a very large credit card balance, and you know that, hey, I think I can make more money off of my investment than what it's costing me to borrow it. So, and then plus when the investment is sold, now it's paid off. And this would still apply even if you were going to hold on to the property and keep it as a rental. And again, you've just got to look at some of the cash flow about it. Everybody in the state of Utah that I know that says, boy, I want to be a landlord, they say that until they actually become one. And I've shared this in other videos. I do have several rental properties, but back in the 90s I had a bunch as well, and I didn't understand how to find good tenants and how to be a good property manager, and I ended up selling them all by year 2001. And then I slowly got back into it again, and I was a little bit smarter my second time around on it, and so I have a much better experience with rental properties this time. But borrowing the money for that long-term investment, if you can borrow that money at 5% and you're going to generate a 12% rate of return on your rental property, that's a long-term investment on an appreciating asset which is another piece of real estate, versus a short-term investment on a depreciating asset, which would be like a vehicle or recreation vehicle, boat, or something like that. So hopefully that helps you understand some of the decision-making process on how to tap in that equity. But going back to selling the house though, another thing you can do is there are some people that have so much equity in their home. I mean, the home is worth literally 2 or 3 times the value of the house that they're living in right now. So maybe they only owe $200,000 on a house and they can sell it for $500,000. They know that they can afford a much more expensive home, so why not sell the $500,000 home? You've got your $300,000 down payment. Well, if you don't mind having a mortgage payment on the next house and you were thinking about trading up anyway, okay, well guess what? You don't have to put the entire $300,000 down on the next home. You could buy the next home and put down $200,000 if it was your primary residence. You have an exemption from the capital gains tax, which we've talked about in other videos, and your mortgage rate is going to be the best rate available because you've got a large down payment. It's a purchase transaction, and you could take that other $100,000 and you could use that maybe for debt consolidation, or you could use it to invest in another property, or maybe finish the basement or do something with the home that you just purchased. So quite a few options there. I just find it's best for me to, again, ask people's questions, ask them questions and kind of let them see what their intent, the purpose, the duration of the money, and all that stuff might affect the best way for them to tap their equity. So hopefully that helps you out a little bit. Thanks for joining me in thecreditjungle.com. Remember, you can push button, get mortgage professional, and I'd love to talk with you about your situation. Have a great day.